With the painfully average Avengers game recently coming out and me being a broke boy, currently I am unable to play the game, but my Marvel stiffy still needs to be rubbed, so I decided to take a look back through all things Marvel. And boy oh boy, did I find something. An ancient relic. A forgotten masterpiece, something that even Marvel themselves seem to have forgotten about. The 2007 movie Ghost Rider, starring Nicolas Cage in the leading role. I don't even think Nicolas Cage himself remembers being a part of this movie. It just seems like everyone's forgotten about it, but not me. I was about 9 years old when this film was released, and I really liked it growing up as a kid, I can't lie, and obviously I still love superhero movies and everything. One of my personal favourite characters was and still is the Ghost Rider. For a chance to see him portrayed on the big screen by a possible CGI six-pack Nicolas Cage, I knew I was in for a treat. Looking back on it now, yeah, the film does suck, but regardless, they also released a video game alongside the film, which is also called Ghost Rider. Now, I got the PS2 copy of the game, but this game was also released on the PSP and the Game Boy Advanced, and there was supposed to be an Xbox version of the game that was planned for release, but it got cancelled. So I can only imagine the amount of unbearable pain that these Microsoft scrubs have to go through, tossing and turning in bed each night, wondering why they never got to experience this absolute masterpiece. But anyway, the game is a third-person hack and slash that doesn't actually follow the same plot points as the movie, which isn't a crime. I mean, the movie does suck balls, but what is a crime is for some unknown reason, they did not utilise having Nicolas Cage's face in the game, which is such a massively missed opportunity. When you have the chance to use Nicolas Cage's face for anything, you do it. But instead they use this Max Payne's face model. He looks like he's on a heroin addiction. But they did get to use the face of the guy who played as Barton Blaze in the film, you know, Ghost Rider's stepfather. And this guy was also the guy who played Thomas Wayne in the Joker movie. So I assume it's something like image rights, or Nicolas Cage just didn't want to be in the game. I haven't got a Scooby. So the game starts off with you in hell and you are immediately thrown into the orgy. But thankfully, all that time spent reading the Bible during independent reading time finally comes in handy. You're able to fend off these horny demons using the three main attacks, which is the flaming chain, which pretty much just slaps them back a bit. It doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but it can hit more than one enemy at a time, so that's kind of good. It's very easy to spam as well, so that's the attack I use for the most part. Then we have the Irish handshake, where we use our fist and absolutely pulverise the unfortunate soul who's just unlucky enough to be locked onto. And of course the Randy Orton KO, because as we all know, the Ghost Rider watches WWE. Now, because you are catapulted straight into the game, you don't really have time to kind of like look around and see your surroundings and appreciate the amazing quality graphics that you're looking at right now. But I think I can understand why they've just chucked you straight into it, and that's just to take away from the distraction that is this piece of shit soundtrack. So they use rock music for this game, which I completely understand, you know, it suits the vibe of, you know, hell and fighting demons and whatnot. You know, I totally get it, but this has to be the most generic rock music that I've ever heard, ever. And to top it off, the audio quality is just so fucking terrible. It sounds like the microphone that they used to record this music was shoved inside DJ Khaled's arsehole. So it's all like muffled and it just doesn't sound good. Even the sound effects that they use in this game just sound odd, I'd say. It's like, whenever you hit someone, it sounds like you're slapping them with a dead fish. There's even these little fire fountains that you just walk up to and that will heal your character, but the sound that they use is just weird.
Up and down on his shaft and suck the head at the same time.
But yeah, for the most part of this game, it's just you stuck in a room with a bunch of enemies and you have to just kill all enemies to progress further, which it can be tedious at times. You know, the enemies aren't exactly the most difficult opponents, but the game does try and introduce different kinds of enemies throughout the game, you know, like these little bat things, for example. But pretty early on in the game, there is an enemy that's added which, on paper, it probably sounds really good. The dev team were probably so proud of adding this kind of enemy in. Oh, well done everyone, let's give ourselves a good old tap on the back. Maybe we can start jerking each other off in the office toilets, woo! The demon that I'm talking about is basically just an enemy with a shield around it, and it will say something on it. So for example, the one on screen right now says brutal. And what you have to do is just beat up the enemy to the point where you've built up your meter to match whatever it says around the shield. And until you match it together, then you can actually start to cause damage to the enemy. My main problem with this is that it can just take some time getting the meter to match whatever it says around the shield. And also with the variety of moves that you have and the sometimes difficult camera angle to work with, it's just sometimes a bit meh doing this. I don't know, maybe this was just me, but I'll say this, there was a part in the game where after, you beat a bunch of enemies, eventually 2 shielded opponents come into the ring. So, you gotta build up the meter, match it to whatever, blah blah blah. The only problem was that because of how small this ring was, that the enemies are so close together, and whilst you're like swinging your Todger about trying to hit them, it may just be unlucky, but you might miss one of the opponents, and that gives them enough time to sneak in and grab your ass. And this is where my frustration for these types of enemies really built up, because it took me about 15 minutes to finally beat these 2 simple enemies. Even the erect nipple demon boss thing doesn't take that long to defeat. If anything, the shielded enemies are so much more difficult than the actual bosses of the level, which just doesn't make sense. But what does make sense is that this game's also included levels where you're actually able to drive the motorbike. Now, as you can see here, the Ghost Riders decided to have a little cruise through Lewisham. I'm actually glad that these are added in the game. I just feel like if these kinds of levels weren't really added, it would have just been like a massive missed opportunity again. And it would have also felt like kind of stupid that you couldn't actually drive in a game where you play as the Ghost Rider, which is one of his like things, For me, I actually enjoy these segments for what they are. I mean, it's not like a Mario Kart level intensive driving course, but I like just to mess around with these things and have fun and just enjoy taking my sweet ass time. But yeah, to sum it all up, this game, it's okay. When I picked this game up, I wasn't really expecting to be blown away. Oh shit, edge of my seat stuff, grabbing my arse cheeks, not knowing what's going to happen next. The game certainly had the potential to be great, but unfortunately there's just too many missed opportunities. The game's combat is very repetitive, and it can be tedious at times, and as far as the story goes, I can't really say. I wasn't really playing the game for the story. If they added maybe more variation and movesets to the combat, and if it wasn't for every 5 seconds you had to fight a bunch of demons with a condom on, and maybe just take a step back from the combat just a little bit. If they added some puzzles or platforming elements or just anything else, it would have spruced it up just that little bit. And for the driving levels, I enjoyed it. I mean, it would have been good if there was like a game mode where you could just play through various courses and whatnot, but that wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. Oh, and how could I possibly forget about the absolute train wreck that they use for audio in this game? The sound of nothingness has a better beat drop than the music that they used in this game. Deaf people would mute their TV just so they don't have to be in the same room with this sound playing. I was thinking about streaming this game, playing it from like start to finish on my new Twitch account, which is deanrage3. So if you want to see that, if you want to come join and hang out, then please do. I'll leave a link in the description. That'll be great. If you want to see more of this game, or if you just want to see me getting very annoyed at the shield demons, then yeah, just come over and hang out. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. This is kind of like a new type of video on my channel, so if you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like. If you did, I want to kind of know if that's what people want to see or not. And if you want to see more content from myself, then please feel free to subscribe. Yeah, that's about it. Alright, take it easy.